Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Queue, and in this, the second of two videos on the Dunkirk Heroes bundle that is currently available in the premium shop, I'm going to talk about the Spitfire Mk and help you decide whether the bundle is worth it. At this point in my video on the BF109E3, I went to the trouble of producing a workbook that compared it to its tech tree counterpart, the BF109E Emil, and that was worth doing. However, it's not really worth doing for the Spitfire because so much of this aircraft depends upon its pilot. However, just to illustrate the point, what I have done is I've stripped my Mark 1A down to no equipment and put in a new pilot. I've done the same with the Spitfire 1, and we're just going to hover over that and we can see straight away that the Spitfire 1 is a superior aircraft. The gun armament is much better, the airspeed is a little bit better, the altitude performance is a little bit better, and the manoeuvrability, importantly, is exactly the same. The moral of the story here is that the Spitfire Mark 1A is nothing without its special pilot. And one of the problems you've got when you have the aircraft offered without its pilot, which has normally been the case in the past, you're basically buying a very mediocre aircraft. And then you have to wait and hope to catch an opportunity to get the special pilot. And that's when the aircraft comes alive. So let's have a look at that now. Let's move both of them very quickly back into Specialist, Configuration, and we'll put in the proper pilots. And you can see the equipment is appearing. That's the Spitfire 1 done. Let's do the same for the Spitfire 1A. There's the equipment. Now let's put in Charles Donovan, the special Spitfire pilot. And now let's have a quick look at the figures. Well, the gun armament on the Spitfire 1 is still better, in theory, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The survivability is still a bit better, the airspeed is a bit better, but look at the manoeuvrability. Far, far worse. And this is what sets apart the Spitfire Mark 1A with its special pilot when properly built. The manoeuvrability is very high indeed. And in fact, until the recent introduction of Akira Akane, who is the special pilot for the A6M50 at Tier 6, which I should point out this Spitfire can meet, this was the most manoeuvrable aircraft in the game, when it had the special pilot and perhaps when the special skill here, which I'll talk about in a moment, was activated. So since the pilot makes so much difference to this aircraft and it's on offer in the bundle, now would be a good time to pick up this bundle if you're considering it. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just look at the special skills. And on the Charles Donovan we have the Spitfire Mark A1 Master. Again, like the Master skill on the BF109E3, this does not transfer to other aircraft, but it increases the manoeuvrability and damage by 10%. And then we have this final dash skill, and this one does transfer, and it is very useful on other aircraft. I use this pilot on my Vampire a lot. This repairs all critical damage, heals all crew injuries, provides the pilot with resistance to injury, and increases manoeuvrability and engine thrust by 10% when the aircraft loses 50% of its hit points. Now it goes on to say that this is only activated once per battle, and it remains in force once it comes into force. It's not so clear that's true because the icon for this goes on and goes off, and perhaps that means it has to be activated every sortie and not every battle. We're not quite sure. But the long and short of it is, this manoeuvrability and the mastery skill improving the damage output turns this aircraft into a little monster. So, all that said, let's see how it performs in battle. So, if you watched my video on the BF109E3, you'll recognise this map. Strangely enough, it's Scorching Sands again, and it's the invasion variant. So very quickly, we have a central garrison which is tactically important by virtue of its position, but otherwise conveys the standard 3 resources every 5 seconds. We have the airbase, which conveys those same resources and has the 3 special characteristics. You can select it as a spawn point, you can select a different aircraft of the same tier after being destroyed, or you can fully repair your aircraft. Quite different from field repairs, where you can only repair your aircraft partially. There are 2 other flanking garrisons. These only become important if the battle is tight and they become tipping points. Looking at the order of battle, we can see that I'm top tier in my Spitfire 1A. I have a couple of other top tier aircraft with me, a BF109E and an HS129B, both specialised. We have a couple of tier 4s, a BF110B and an A6M10. On the enemy side, we can see that there is only 2 tier 5 aircraft, a Hurricane 2 flown by Mk, a BF109E that is specialised, and then 2 BF110C6s. Those are the ones with the big cannons, premium aircraft, and then Focke-Wulf 189C. Now, no lies, this is a very favourable map and a favourable order of battle for my Spitfire. So again, as with the battle in the BF109E3, the garrison ahead of us is obviously the first target, but after that I shall almost certainly swing to the right, or the western airfield, and then probably seek to go to the middle to try and capture the tactically important garrison. And off we go. I'm sizing up one of the air defence boomerangs straight away, and as you can see, with this special mastery skill, even these supposedly weak guns can melt air defence aircraft when you're top tier very quickly. So, off to the airfield. So far so good. So I'm not too worried about gaining your altitude here. I'm not going to be taking on the air defence heavies. I know I can weave in and out of the boomerangs with ease, so I'm going to fight at their level. In many other cases, in most other aircraft, gaining altitude is a good idea. And as you can see again, half the health of one of the boomerangs disappears. I have an enemy on my tail, so I disengage and I go looking for that. Realise he's been taken out or moved off to another target. Now I swing around again. There he is. And as you can see, 2/3 of the health melted away very quickly there, and the last third goes in the blink of an eye. The airfield is ours. Again, good habit, I pick up repairs even though I hardly need them, and I swing towards the central and tactically important garrison. Again, not really bothering to gain altitude, and that's because I'm thinking about attacking that ground attacker that's ahead of me. I'm aware that there are 3 aircraft above me. They haven't become large arrows yet, and now I really do want to try and get this ground attacker out because that will help reset this base. And then I spot another ground attacker who's dogfighting. You can see a lot of the Bisha's health disappeared in that attack. I then swing around for the FW109C, and I always think that people in ground attackers who dogfight ought to be punished. Call it a quirk of mine. And we have the central garrison. Swinging around looking for a target, and this Lag 3-4 is a bot. But I have to say, for a bot, it played extremely well. As you'll see at the end, I don't mention it, but in the battle results you'll see that bot ended up getting 2nd place in the team, and with a pretty decent score. Size up the Hurricane. I'm being shot from behind, so I take evasive action and swing round. And I'm on the tail of the aircraft that was shooting me, just like that. And down that goes. I don't bother thinking about the bomber, that's a bit too much for the Spitfire unless the position is extreme. The HE-112 obligingly flies in front of me, so I obligingly shoot him down. I then turn towards the enemy airfield, looking for incoming aircraft. There's quite a few of them. I notice the ground attacker is pointing at me. That isn't the Focke-Wulf 189C, that's a scripted bot. Ground attackers will always threaten you if they can, if you're in front of them. Do my familiar move very quickly, almost dizzyingly so, of trying to get above the ground attacker, but he's actually gained a little bit of altitude and I end up shooting from behind instead. And we hang on to the garrison by a fraction, although as we have 2 other garrisons and an airfield to the enemy's sole airfield, we're not in a bad position. see how nimble this aircraft is by the way it's moving around. If you compare this with the Bf-109E3, itself no slouch, you can see there's just no comparison. This thing can nearly pivot on a sixpence, and if you don't know what a sixpence is, the internet is your friend. It's an old piece of British currency which predates 1971, and the phrase is still common in the United Kingdom to indicate high agility. The Akamatsu medal goes through. We've already amassed 12,000 points, and I was actually thinking at this point that the game wasn't going to last long enough for this to be worthwhile as a replay. But then we lose this sector. Like 3-4 falls to my guns once again. I think that's the third time I've shot him down. And now we're waiting for the air defence aircraft to spawn so I can shoot those. And then pretty much I'm going to be more or less in the middle of them, so I want to move away a little bit to give myself a bit of room in which to manoeuvre. They spawn, I turn, and they are still quite close. I nearly fly into the air defence heavies. That was almost not a disastrous mistake, but a bad one. The Winged Legend goes through. Put a few shots into the bowfighter and then decided it'd be more efficient to kill the second boomerang, which I duly do. And then I swing around looking for another target of opportunity. And it turns out to be the other bowfighter, which I melt away. And the Hero of the Sky badge goes through. We have the middle sector back. Free access to the other sectors is restored. Now there's an awful lot of red aircraft over here, and even during this battle I debated the wisdom of making this move, but I decided in the effort to find damage I would. And that was a mistake. The Lag 3-4 that I've highlighted 3 times before obviously decided that Bot's Revenge was due and shot me down. However, not before I shot down Platmaker. As I respawn, the score line comes in, and now it's important to keep the aircraft alive, but it's a nice fresh aircraft. Most of the enemy are congregated in the centre, so it's obvious to go there. Although by this time, even if we do lose the centre, it's not going to be a catastrophic occurrence. Beginning to come in range of the Bisha. Half his health is already gone, and I helped to wipe him with the other half. Weave and jig about a bit, and then we find, and I had already noticed this, and that was the reason why I was weaving and bobbing and jinking, our friend in the Focke-Wulf 189C is dogfighting again. So I simply get round behind him and I say, please take that aircraft back to the hangar. And that turned out to be the ace. Unfortunately, in killing the ground attacker I took a bit too long about it, and Platmaker got his revenge. So there was no time for a respawn, but as you can see, a fine crop of medals there and 19,335 points. A good, but I emphasise, by no means an unusually good game. Let's take a look at the outcome of this battle, and as we can see from the middle, it was a 5 chevron battle, or a grade 1 fighter. 178,983 credits, or silver if you prefer, gross, of which about 60,000 were from the premium account bonus. If we look in the message box, we can see the repairs cost 1,850, that was for the aircraft being destroyed twice. 3,465 experience with the premium account bonus there. Free experience of 173, again with the premium account bonus. A good haul of medals, a Marseille, an Ace, Akamatsu, a Winged Legend, and a Hero of the Sky, 3 of which produced tokens for first medalers of the day. Moving to the personal score tab, we can see that all of the class specific missions were completed. 19,335 personal points, a good gain but by no means exceptional in this aircraft. 4 sectors captured, 20 aerial targets destroyed, exactly the number required for an ace, 4,883 damage to aerial targets, only 14 critical hits, but then this plane only has machine guns, that's what you have to expect. The aircraft was destroyed twice, and the capture points of 680 were split 320 for defending sectors and 360 for attacking sectors. And if we look at the team score tab, we can see that was easily enough for first place. Good contributions coming from the BF-109E and the HS-129B, and on the opposing side, Mk and his Hurricane had a very good battle too. So here's the bundle that's on offer in the premium shop currently, and for £19.10, which I think is €22.33, you get the following: the BF-109E3, the Spitfire Mk 2 100% trained crew, which aren't the special pilots apparently, 2 hangar slots to accommodate the aircraft, 2 steel supply crates, and this is how I would like steel supply crates to be used. You stand some chance, who knows how good a chance, of getting something very nice out of those crates if you're a newer player, and probably are if you're considering this bundle. And as a bonus, you get the special pilot Charles Donovan for the Spitfire and the special pilot Hans Weber for the BF-109. So let's just talk about the history of these aircraft very briefly. Originally, they were released in the middle of 2017 as a time with the Christopher Nolan film Dunkirk. And if you haven't seen that film, by the way, that's well worth watching. Now, the aircraft, without their pilots, are at best average. In fact, I tend to say the Spitfire is actually mediocre, and the Messerschmitt is actually a bit better. The pilots on their own are of some but limited value. 2 of the skills, the mastery skills, don't work on other aircraft. The Spitfire pilot's final dash skill is good in other planes, but Weber's nosedive skill is tricky to use and not that useful on any plane, including the BF-109E3. Have the aircraft ever been offered separately? Yes, they have, but not often. Have they ever been offered with their pilots separately? I don't believe that's ever happened. The only time I've seen the pilots, except as part of this bundle with both aircraft, are as a bundle on their own. So, does this bundle come up very often? And to my knowledge, this is only the second time the pilots have been bundled with their aircraft since 2017. This is a rare bundle. So, all that said, when you get the aircraft specialised and you have the special pilots in them, what you have is one little monster, the Spitfire Mk 1A, and one so-so aircraft, one that is inferior to its tech tree counterpart. The BF-109E3 is nowhere near as good as the BF-109E Emil. Do I think this bundle is worth it? Well, it's tricky. Bearing in mind that you've got to get them specialised, which takes effort, but bearing in mind that this is a rare bundle and you won't get the pilots with the aircraft very often, as far as I know. This is only the second time, as I said, since the middle of 2017 that this bundle has been offered. It comes down to this: if you like turn fighting, then you're going to love the Spitfire when you get it specialised. The BF-109E3 is not without its charms. It's not as good as its tech tree counterpart, but if you love 109s and must have them all, it's an interesting make weight. Would I buy this bundle if I didn't have this aircraft already? Well, I love turn fighting, and the answer is, at that price, I think probably I would. So, there's my recommendation. If you're prepared to go through the pain of specialising these aircraft and you don't mind the BF-109E3 being a make weight, or you're particularly fond of 109s, then this bundle is probably worth it for the Spitfire alone. I hope you found something of interest in this video, and if you did, I hope you come and see future content that I produce. But in the meantime, this is the Noble Q, also known as Royal Flying Corps, signing out.